So the last step for this assignment is going to be to produce a final map. What I'd like you to do is to make sure you add an ortho photo in the background of your traverse, play around with the symbology in ways that are that will properly illustrate the different features that you've mapped. And then what we're going to work in is what's called, I might have to move this down a bit here. Down here we've got layout view. You may have done this already, but essentially this is the map that you're producing. And you're going to adjust the scale. So always use, don't ever have a scale as like 1 to 1,113. You know, let's use nice round numbers. So let's try 2,000 and what that will give us. Ooh. Great. Yeah, maybe we'll go with 1,000. Okay, that's better. So remember to add your ortho photo in the background. And then this is your map frame. So the data sits within this frame, and this is the page and how it would look if you printed it out or exported it as a PDF. So often on maps what you see are a lot of different other features. If you go under Insert, there's options to add dynamic text. So for instance, why don't we add dynamic text to add our current date. So this will always have the current date. You can right click, go Properties. Change symbol to make it a little bit bigger. So why don't we make it like a 16? Great. So that'll always add the current date to the map. You could, so this is dynamic text. That means that it'll always update automatically. So you could have your coordinate system. Truthfully, sometimes I find this is a little bit clunky and maybe not useful to have as much of that in there, but let's do that for now. You could add a title. So fitness, BCIT, fitness trail. So maybe we'll leave this on the map itself. You can insert a north arrow. I always pick something sort of simple style. You might decide to put that over here in the corner of your map. The other component you might like to add is a scale bar for sure. So you can add a scale in this type of style. So as a ratio. Just going to plunk that there. You can produce templates, and we'll do that later. But for this map, I'd like you to just play around with what you think looks good, and play around with these different components that you can add. You could add a scale bar. Now, the interesting thing with the scale bar is that as you grow it, it will show different units, and this doesn't look very good if you put that on there. Plus it's miles and we're not in the US. We're in Canada. Let's get kilometers on there. So go to the properties. So all I did here, sorry, was right click, go properties. And here's where you can play with your division units. So in this case, perhaps meters are more suitable. So it depends on the scale of what you're working with. You could set it to have a certain amount of subdivisions and divisions. So let's cut this back to 2. Adjust division value, adjust width, adjust number of divisions. So there's different things you can play with here, but let's just keep it like this for now. So 0 to 60 meters, that's okay. I like nice round numbers again, so maybe a 50 is a little bit easier to work with, or maybe that's easy to work with, 15-meter intervals. Maybe I'll stick it to 100 meters. Great. So now every section here is 25 meters. Easier if you were trying to use a scale bar to use something like that. And again, you can play around with that one. And the last bit that you want to add for sure is a legend. So you spent all that time symbolizing things because you want to have a legend. Now, the legend allows you to add map layers and to remove map layers. So if there's some of these features that you didn't actually want to include, you could remove them. But in this case, we want to have all of these features in our legend. And here's a sequence on how they're going to display. So I'm going to put the points above the trail, above the sensitive grass area. Next. You could have a title. In this case, we'll leave that. Legend. You could have a border. You can have a different background color. Sometimes I like to do like a gray. And there's a drop shadow option. And then there's other sort of things you can play around with here. And this is like the spacing between different components of the legend and finish. So here's your legend. You can shrink it. You can grow it. What you could do is, if you wanted a bit more space for your legend, I think, no, that's not what you're, so this will move your page around. But if you grab the hand here, you can actually just tuck the map data, and we could maybe make our legend just a wee bit bigger. Now notice how there's some things in here that you don't really want in your legend. Let me zoom in and show you what I mean. So point features, I don't want point features, I don't want all that. So here's how you can clean that up. So let's, for point features, for instance, if you right click, go to your properties and your symbology, you can unclick that one. So now it won't be part of your symbology. You can play around with your labels. So this is your labels. So let's just remove that. And let's see what happens. Great. So now what I've got is type stairs, and I still have this point features. So what you can also do here is, sorry, that's not what I want to do. In your legends, this is getting a little bit picky, but you can play with the different items. So I'm in the properties right now. So point features, you could go to styles. And under styles, you can pick to remove the layer name and just have the labels and the heading. And I think that'll take care of business. Now I've played around with this stuff a lot. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work. For the trail, you're going to have different surfaces. And again, if you go into symbology, you can remove this label here. You can uncheck that. And then it'll just sort of start to clean things up a bit. So there are some tips. Oh yeah, actually let's go back here for a second. Yeah, you don't want, why is that still clicked? Let's see what happens now. This should be better. There it is. Okay. So anyways, this is just some of the things that you can do to produce a map. Again, I'd like you to ensure that you add an orthophoto. And the very last step is, remember your .mxd. So if you want file, and I encourage you to do this, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save this map. Okay. That's my assignment. Let's call it A12. Oh, please, Marku. A12 fitness trail. No spaces, nothing. Great. Now if you hand that in, it's not going to be helpful to me, because all this is connections to all your data, your geodatabase, your WMS link, etc. So it's not very useful to me. So the way to really give this and share this with someone is to go File, Export Map, and you're going to save it as a PDF. Great. Interesting thing here, please select, where is it? JPEG, General, Advanced. Export PDF layers only. That's good. But make sure that this box here, so you're under Advanced, Export Map Georeference information is there. And I'll explain to you why down the road that's important. But essentially it'll allow you to look at your map in an app on your phone, for instance, and it's georeferenced. Great, so you're going to save that as a PDF. So now when you submit your PDF, I will have your map in a format where I can view it. The last components you might like to consider adding that I didn't really think about explaining at this point, but you know, you really want to have like the author name on here, so whoever is the author. You might have another note about data or instruments, so which equipment what used, or who gathered the field data. So there's lots of different data that you might want to include here, but for now, this is a good start.